I think it's very important that tradition stays, and tradition has a huge part of all this. But there's also points where you look at tradition and go, is that still fit for purpose today? Is that still the right thing to do? Are we still doing and having the most impact we can?
Something is not just wrong inside Windsor Castle, something is breaking. Not quietly, not politely, but violently beneath the surface. Because behind those perfectly staged smiles and royal handshakes, Prince William is no longer playing the patient son. He is moving like a man who has already decided the future and is now forcing it into existence. And at the center of this storm, not a political rival, not a foreign threat, but Queen Camilla herself, her circle, her influence, her power. And what insiders are now whispering sounds less like tension and more like a silent purge in motion, because the night everything snapped wasn't random. It was March 18th, 2026, the Nigerian state visit, a glittering diplomatic moment that looked flawless on camera. Bola Tinubu arrives, the palace shines, the monarchy performs. But behind the gold plates and rehearsed smiles, something deeply unsettling was unfolding. William wasn't watching the spectacle, he was watching his father, King Charles III, and what he saw disturbed him. Sources say William's reaction wasn't mild concern, it was anger, real anger, because to him, this wasn't just a busy schedule, it was a dangerous one. A 77-year-old king, already weakened, pushed into a demanding 2-day public display. Cameras caught the grandeur, but insiders noticed something else: fatigue, strain, a man forcing himself through duty. And William, he saw it as something worse: negligence. And here's where it turns explosive, because William didn't blame the staff, he didn't blame protocol, he didn't blame the pressures of monarchy, he blamed Camilla, directly, quietly, but with growing intensity. Because while William wanted Charles to slow down, to rest, to survive, Camilla reportedly pushed the opposite narrative: stay active, stay visible, stay strong for the institution. And in that clash of priorities, something broke between them. This wasn't a disagreement anymore. This was a line being drawn. Insiders say that after the banquet, conversations turned tense, then colder, then sharper. William wasn't just worried, he felt ignored, powerless, watching his father, already battling cancer, being pushed to maintain appearances, and in his mind, that pressure had a source: Camilla, not as a villain in public, but as an obstacle in private. And once that thought takes root, it doesn't fade. Because now, this isn't just about health, it's about control. Palace insiders are now saying what used to be whispered: William feels like he is at war with Camilla. Not openly, not officially, but strategically. Every time he suggests Charles step back, resistance. Every time he pushes for caution, tension. And slowly, the relationship that once seemed stable is unraveling into something far more dangerous. At the heart of it is a brutal question: what matters more, the monarchy or the man wearing the crown? Camilla, according to those close to her, believes Charles needs his work, that it gives him purpose, stability, even protection. But William doesn't see protection. He sees risk. He sees history repeating, because he has already lived through what happens when emotional strain and royal pressure collide. He watched Princess Diana fade under that weight, and now he fears watching his father do the same. And that fear, it's turning into action. Because behind closed doors, William isn't just expressing concern anymore, he's issuing ultimatums. February 2026, a moment that didn't make headlines but should have. According to insiders, William directly told Camilla to cut ties with Sarah Ferguson. Completely. No compromise. No middle ground. Why? Because of the lingering shadow of Prince Andrew and the controversies still attached to his name. To William, the monarchy is already fragile. Every association matters, every connection is a risk. But Camilla refused. And that refusal? It wasn't just defiance, it was personal. Because her friendship with Fergie predates everything. Before Charles, before the crown, before the scandals, it survived decades. And she wasn't about to erase it because William demanded it. And suddenly, what looked like a simple disagreement became something much deeper. A power struggle disguised as family tension. Because here's the uncomfortable truth no one wants to say out loud. William is not king. Not yet. But he is acting like one. He's drawing boundaries, issuing directives, deciding what stays and what gets cut. And for some inside the palace, that's raising serious questions. Is this leadership, or is this control coming too soon? And just when things couldn't get more unstable, another spark hits the fire. March 26th, 2026. Tom Bower drops his book, Betrayal, Power, Deceit, and the Fight for the Future of the Royal Family. And suddenly, the private tensions explode into public narrative. One claim in particular lands like a grenade, Camilla allegedly accusing Meghan Markle of influencing Prince Harry. And just like that, the past is dragged back into the present. Because William has spent years trying to separate the monarchy from the chaos surrounding Harry and Meghan, to stabilize the image, to move forward. But now, that separation is collapsing. The narrative is bleeding back in, and the timing couldn't be worse. Because while William is dealing with his father's health, his stepmother internal fractures, now he's also fighting a public perception battle he didn't ask for. And inside Windsor, the atmosphere shifts. Colder, tighter, more cautious, because everyone can feel it. This is no longer a family disagreement. This is a transition of power happening in real time. William sees a monarchy under pressure, his father's health declining, scandals lingering, public trust fragile. And instead of waiting, he's stepping in early, acting early, deciding early. And in his vision, there is no room for loose ends, no room for divided loyalties, no room for influence he doesn't control. And that's where Camilla becomes the final complication, not just as a stepmother, but as a force, a network, a presence that doesn't fully align with the future William is trying to build. And the most unsettling part, he may already be planning what happens when the crown is finally his. Because insiders are now quietly suggesting that when William becomes king, Camilla's entire role will be reassessed. Not removed, but reduced, controlled, limited. Her circle, reviewed. Her influence, contained. Her presence, carefully managed. And if that's true, then what we are witnessing right now is not conflict, it's preparation. A slow, calculated shift where the future king is already shaping the monarchy before he officially holds it. And the question no one can answer yet is this: will Camilla accept that future quietly? Or will the war inside the palace finally break into the open? Because what happens next isn't just speculation anymore, it's inevitability creeping closer with every passing day. The crown is still resting on the head of King Charles III, but the authority, the direction, the silent decisions shaping tomorrow, those are already shifting into the hands of Prince William. And insiders are beginning to admit something that would have sounded unthinkable just a few years ago. William is no longer waiting. He is positioning, calculating, and most importantly, preparing to rewrite the rules of the monarchy itself. Because behind the palace doors, there is a growing realization that this isn't just about disagreements or personality clashes. This is about a future king who has watched everything fall apart. His parents' marriage, the public unraveling of Princess Diana, the scandal surrounding Prince Andrew, the explosive departure of Prince Harry, and has decided that chaos will not define his reign. Not again, not under his watch. And that decision, it comes with consequences. Because the version of the monarchy William envisions is not the one that exists today. It's leaner, colder, sharper. A structure with fewer people, fewer risks, fewer emotional ties clouding judgment. A system where loyalty isn't assumed, it's demanded. Where even family can become expendable. And in that vision, Camilla's position becomes increasingly fragile. Not publicly, not yet, but quietly, structurally. Because while royal experts insist that Queen Camilla will retain her title when William ascends, just as tradition allowed the Queen Mother to remain, titles are only part of the story. Power is something else entirely. And insiders are now suggesting that William's approach will not revolve around removing Camilla, but redefining her, limiting her access, restricting her influence, carefully curating who surrounds her, and perhaps most critically, distancing the monarchy from the extended network that came with her rise. Because for William, this isn't personal anymore. It's strategic. The Parker Bowles circle, the friendships, the long-standing alliances that Camilla built over decades, they are no longer seen as harmless connections. They are seen as variables, risks, loose threads that could unravel the controlled image William is trying to construct. And if there's one thing insiders agree on, it's that William has no tolerance for unpredictability. Which brings us to the quiet panic building among those closest to the crown. Because it's not just Camilla who is watching this shift. Princess Beatrice and Princess Eugenie are reportedly paying very close attention. Not casually, not from a distance, but carefully, strategically, because they understand what's coming. If William is willing to draw lines with Camilla, then no one is beyond beyond review. And that realization has triggered something rarely spoken about in royal circles: legal preparation, quiet conversations, contingency plans. Because when power shifts this dramatically, those who might be affected don't wait to react. They prepare. And that alone tells you everything. Because royal family members don't start thinking about lawyers unless they feel something real is about to happen. And yet, the most unsettling part of this entire story isn't the politics or the power plays or even the potential restructuring of the monarchy. It's the emotional undercurrent driving all of it. Because beneath William's calculated decisions, there is something far more raw, something unresolved, something that never truly healed. Diana, her shadow isn't fading, it's intensifying. Every time William sees Camilla beside his father, every time he watches her influence decisions, every time he feels his father being pulled toward duty instead of rest, it doesn't just register as disagreement. It triggers memory, old wounds, old anger, old grief that was never fully buried. Because to William, Camilla isn't just a queen with a different perspective, she is a reminder of a broken marriage, of a childhood shaped by betrayal, of a mother who once said there were 3 people in her marriage, and a son who grew up watching that reality unfold. And now, decades later, those same emotional fault lines are cracking open again. Only this time, William isn't powerless. He's not the child watching from the sidelines anymore. He's the man who will soon hold the crown. And that changes everything. Because when personal history collides with institutional power, decisions stop being neutral. They become decisive and possibly irreversible. Which is why some insiders are beginning to ask a question that feels almost too dangerous to say out loud. Is this really about protecting Charles? Or is it about settling something much deeper? Because the intensity of William's actions, the ultimatums, the positioning, the readiness to reshape the monarchy suggests something more than concern. It suggests urgency, determination, a refusal to repeat the past at any cost. And when someone operates from that place, compromise becomes unlikely. Because in William's mind, hesitation is what allowed things to spiral before, and he refuses to hesitate again, which means the future of the monarchy is no longer a slow evolution. It's about to become a controlled transformation. And Camilla, whether she realizes it or not, is standing directly in the path of it. Because when the moment finally comes, when the crown passes, when the formal power becomes real, William won't be stepping into uncertainty. He'll be stepping into a structure he has already been shaping behind the scenes. A monarchy stripped of what he sees as weakness. A circle tightened to only those he fully trusts. A system where influence is not inherited, but permitted. And in that system, there are no guarantees for anyone, not even a queen. And that's the part no one inside the palace can ignore anymore. Because this isn't just about what William will do when he becomes king, it's about what he's already doing now. Quietly, deliberately, relentlessly. The lines have been drawn. The roles are being redefined. And the tension inside Windsor Castle is no longer something that can be hidden behind ceremonies and smiles. Because sooner or later, something has to give. And when it does, the world won't just witness a royal transition. It will witness a complete reinvention of the crown itself. And by then, it may already be too late to stop it.